Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining the Berkeley Staff Assembly's Programs and Events Committee for our fourth Pass the Mic event. Today's event in the series features the staff advisors to the Regents, and BSA Senior CUCSA representative Brian Light will be our event moderator. My name is Jorge Martinez, and I'll be serving as tech support. We are very excited to speak with our guest today, and with that said, I will pass the mic to Brian to start our conversation.
All right, hello everybody. Thank you for coming to listen to our Pass the Mic series. Right quick, I have put up a slide that tells you a little bit about what we're going to talk about and who we are talking with. So here you've got a little bit of information about who the staff advisors are. We've got Ann Jeffrey, who's from UC Berkeley. We've got Lucy Tseng from UCLA, so don't boo too much. And I am Brian Light, who is currently the CUCSA Senior Delegate, which is how we managed to have these wonderful people come and talk to the Berkeley Staff Assembly, or at least the connection that made this easy. So with that said, let's get into some questions. So first question is, can you introduce yourselves and tell us what a star is and how you became a star?
Okay.
And you first.
Yeah, I'll start. So I'm Ann Jeffrey. I'm the staff advisor to the Regents. It's a 2-year rotating term, and I'm in my second year. And as Brian mentioned, I'm from UC Berkeley. I'm the chief of staff to Mark Fisher, our vice chancellor for administration. I got into being a staff advisor through, there was a recommendation that was made to Mark by someone that I might be a good person to be a staff advisor. And I had never really thought about it before, but I went through and I looked at the UCOP website and read up on the staff advisors, and then Mark actually facilitated a conversation with a previous staff advisor who he had worked with at UC Santa Barbara, and she talked to me a bit about the role, and I thought, gee, you know, this sounds pretty interesting. It sounds like an interesting opportunity to see the issues of the UC at a higher level than and a broader level than just UC Berkeley. And so I applied and miraculously was chosen. And so here I am. Did I miss one of the questions? Okay. Lucy, take it away.
I also feel like where I am today was a miracle as well, Anne. I should start. My name is Lucy Tseng. I am from the UCLA campus. Don't hate on me. I did want to go to Berkeley for a very long time because that's where my brother went. I am a fundraiser by day and everything else by all the other times. I've been with UCLA for 6 years now as a full-time employee, but also went to UCLA as an undergrad and worked all 4 years as a work study with UCLA Anderson. I have been very active with UCLA's Staff Assembly, as you all know what that is, I would say this is my 4th year now. And last year I served as the president of UCLA Staff Assembly, which allowed me to become a delegate for the Council of UC Staff Assemblies, where Brian and I met. And we co-chaired a work group on basic needs for staff. And that kind of led me to the senioritis, but not really, place where I realized I was going to be turning off of my heavy involvement with Staff Assembly and CUCSA, but I still wanted to find ways to contribute in impactful ways. And luckily, Anne and the staff advisor then, Kate, were making their rounds and meeting staff as much as possible. And I got to interact with them to learn more about this role. I applied and again, miraculously was appointed. Did I miss anything, Bri?
Nope, you guys are solid.
Okay.
So a couple follow-ups, of course, would be, I'll start with the hard one first. how much of a commitment is it to be a staff advisor to the Regents? And take it away to start.
Okay, well, it kind of varies. There are some months that are really heavy and some months that aren't as heavy. I sort of estimate it at about a third, a 35% effort. What do you think, Lucy?
Yeah, I think you're right on cue. The other thing I would say is also like what you want to make out of the experience too. You could do the staff advisor role at 100% time. I don't know how your supervisor would feel about that, but there are so many opportunities in this role, especially because we are only 15 years young in the making of the staff advisor role with the Regents. So there's so much more that could be done, but the things that we do consistently that every staff advisor has done over and over would probably add up to about a third of your full-time job time. But we all know most of us are working out of our 40-hour work.
Right.
All right. So then on the fun side, what are some of the perks of being a staff advisor?
Well, that's a good question. This year is a little bit odd, but really I think the biggest perk to being a staff advisor is having the opportunity to interact a little bit more closely with the Regents. Lucy and I have this year in the virtual environment had the chance to meet one-on-one, well, two-on-one with a number of the Regents, and it's just been very interesting to kind of get to know what their interests are and get to know them a little bit more. So I consider that definitely to be a perk. And in normal times, it is really interesting to be part of the in-person meeting. It's really quite an experience. So we don't get most of we just learned that some of the other positions get free parking permits and other cool perks, which we do not get. So there are no perks like that. But the experience itself is kind of a perk.
Definitely. I haven't experienced the in-person mode just yet, but I definitely agree that what Anne shared about access is definitely, I wouldn't call it a perk. I think it's a perk from the perspective of staff who are doing staff-related advocacy work, that is the perk. But I think I just want to be clear, don't become a staff advisor for its perks.
Yeah, definitely not. That's why I used that as the perk, because I couldn't think of anything that people would generally think of as perks, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you get to put something on your resume, but I don't know if that is quite important or valuable enough for the time and energy spent in doing a good job of this role.
Fair enough. Yeah, I figured it was a lot of work. We were hoping there was a little play too. But can you tell me a little bit, going back to the work, some of the task forces or other projects that you're currently working on as a star?
Okay, well, this again is a little bit of an odd year. So last year was a bit more active, and so last year I was involved in a work group that was kind of that was working on paid family leave on that issue. So that was kind of a big one. There have been a number of different efforts on paid family leave going back a ways that other staff advisors had worked on. And our group was and there was a CUCSA delegate on that one too. Amanda Chavez was on that with me. But that was really rewarding to be able to work with other staff at UCOP and from across the system to come up with recommendations on paid family leave that were accepted and take a look at what the implementation plan might be. So I think that's the big work group that I've been on. And now Lucy is just launching in.
Yeah, there's, I can't name a specific work group that's been assigned.
Oh, wait a minute. What about your current thing that you just started today?
Yeah, I didn't think of that as a work group, but definitely something I think would be proud to mention on behalf of staff is that I have been asked to serve on the search committee for the UC system-wide VP of HR. So that is definitely an opportunity, I think, due to the fact that I am a staff advisor or staff advisor designate, that I was asked to serve in that role. So I guess that's a perk. But I would say some informal things that Anne and I have been working on from the staff advisor point of view. Obviously talking with the pertinent people about what the post-pandemic work life could look like. We don't have a work group on that yet, but we're consistently talking about, not just the tech access, but environment, equity, access, and things like that. Beyond the pandemic mode, we're also talking about things like career development, building a system-wide consistency and information on what career development could look like. And then for me specifically, given I'm still part of the early career staff transitioning into mid-career, really wanting to engage with staff on retention and building an attitude and culture in which the UC is the employer of choice for staff consistently. Other task forces, I think also just partnerships across the various opportunities. I mean, staff advisors work with the CUCSA members pretty often, CUCSA delegates pretty often. And then separately, we've also engaged with the alumni regents, student regents, faculty representatives to, better communicate maybe potential overlapping topics of discussion.
Lucy, we should probably also mention because we're sort of thinking narrowly of work groups, we're not thinking of the fact that we also participate on different of the Regents committees.
Right.
So we each have 3 committees that we participate in. And this year I'm participating on compliance and audit, finance and capital strategies, and the labs, National Labs Committee. So, and then from last year, when out of one of my committees, I'm on a subcommittee for former foster issues facing former foster youth on the campuses.
Yeah, I guess the more we talk, the more we realize how much we are doing. And I have the pleasure of serving on public development and engagement, academic and student affairs, as well as investments. And then out of some of those conversations have been talking about student support and building a culture of philanthropy across the system. So.
Excellent. Sounds like quite a bit of work. I'm going to throw in a little plug. Our most recent Pass the Mic before this one was actually about the paid family leave program. So, that's something that's definitely getting traction and we're excited about.
That's great.
So what are some of the challenges that you foresee for staff in the future, especially the near future as we return and all that kind of stuff?
How long do we have?
Yeah, well, I think the new way of working, the post-pandemic workplace is going to be a kind of a good thing, but it's going to be a challenge to really figure out how we do it right. I mean, there's issues ranging from ergonomic to, inclusive workplace to, the other thing that Lucy had mentioned earlier, employee development and promotion, sense of community. I think that's going to be kind of a big challenge going forward in the future. And then also, darn, we've got, especially here at Berkeley, we've got budget problems that are going to go and extend into the future. And so that's going to be just a challenge for all of us. It's very challenging and wearing to work in a resource-constrained environment to the extent that we're having to these days. So those are the two first on my radar.
Yeah, I think another one that's probably on the top of everyone's mind is pay equity, right? I think compensation is always going to be a challenge for any employee. I don't, especially in the public industry, I don't think there will be, at least not in the near future, a time in which people are happy with their compensation, especially with cost of living inflation and the challenge in divide between policy covered and represented staff. There, it's always going to kind of be a gap in equity, I think, there. And so as we have conversations going forward, I think it's important for us to figure out a way to, I don't know if we'll be able to bridge the gap, but at least lessen it as much as possible.
All right. Thank you for that. So has your perspective changed, or how has it changed since you became a star?
Perspective on what?
On being a staff member or part of the UC system as a whole?
Ooh, but okay.
Well, one of the things that's really interesting about this position is the chance, and you've got the same opportunity in CUCSA, but to really interact with people from across the system and to get a better picture of both the similarities and the differences between our campuses, differences in terms of needs and challenges, and but also all of the really cool things that are going on all across the system. The research, the programs, the outreach. We just met with A&R all day yesterday, and the kind of programs that they bring to the state of California are just amazing. We met with Berkeley Lab last month, and again, just amazing, groundbreaking programs that really are going to change the world. So that has been, that's kind of a perk, don't you think, Lucy?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Just seeing the beauty of our system and what an exciting and important place we work at. And it's, that's been wonderful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think for me, again, going back to my comment about being an earlier career staff, having the opportunity to serve as a star is teaching me how the engine works, not just being a gear within the engine. And I'll say it's not for everybody. Not everybody really wants to know how every little detail works. But for me, it's been a true privilege to learn, and also the opportunity to partner so closely with another colleague. And I got lucky to partner with someone who has a lot more experience than I do in serving as a staff member for the UC. So we're able to complement each other in what needs to be reflected on when we say we represent all staff. I think that in itself is a perk. I don't know if Ann and I would have ever crossed paths should neither of us have, applied to be a staff advisor. And that's something that I hope staff out there realize that while we've shared, this is a lot of time, a lot of energy, sometimes blood, sweat, and tears, maybe not blood, but definitely sweat and tears. It's something that you make time for if it's really something that you want to do, and happy to connect with anyone else who would be interested or remotely interested in giving yourself the opportunity to be exposed to more than just your own perspective.
And we only have a couple of more minutes because I know everybody's got other things we have to do. But with those couple minutes, are there any other things that the two of you might want to add for staff or things that are upcoming that you know about that you want to advertise?
Lucy, will you do the advertisement?
Sure. We are coming up in the time of the year in which the applications for the staff advisor role is opening up. And we're really excited to say that starting next week, for the next 2 or 3 weeks, we will have the application live on our website, which will be in the comments below. And what the basic requirements of someone to apply for the staff advisor role is that you have to be fully employed with 5 years of UC service, which means you could have served 5 years on 5 different campuses if you would like. And it's not like a requirement, but it is a requirement. I always say this outright. Supervisor approval is extremely important in this process. As I mentioned earlier, it does take a lot of time and energy. It will impact your day job, not necessarily for the worse, because I do think for me, being very much so informed across the system has helped my work as a fundraiser, actually. But the workload will change, and your supervisor needs to be understanding and supportive of that. And they need to sign your application. So I guess it is a requirement. And then applications come in. We go through a small committee who review the applications, push forward about a half dozen applications to the panel interview, which will consist of former staff advisors, senior leaders who are highly connected with the staff advisor role. And then from the panel interview, 2 staff members will be selected to move on to a one-on-one interview with President Drake, whom then will appoint the next staff advisor, the 18th staff advisor. And then you get to work closely with me, which is a perk.
And one little technical addition is that in addition to the 5 years of service, you need to be policy covered staff or a non-represented, non-faculty academic.
There you go. There you go. Anything else we want to add? And I think something I'd like to share with staff that are listening is just, we hear you and we are you. Like, being in a staff advisor role kind of puts us in a place where it's a little difficult for us to say, oh my God, that's exactly what I'm experiencing. But a lot of the times the comments that we hear about are either things that we have experienced before, like in Anne's situation, or things that I'm currently experiencing myself in my situation, or both. And so we hope that you can see us as your colleagues, and just colleagues with a little more access. So should there be any perspectives or comments that you'd like to make that you feel like nobody is hearing you out, you've got 2 pairs of ears here. Well, 3, because I know Brian will listen to maybe the rest of BSA, but definitely reach out. We're in this role to hear from you. So that's something that I think hasn't been said enough.
All right, with that, I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you both, Lucy and Anne, for coming to talk with the Berkeley Staff Assembly for our Pass the Mic series. We really appreciate your time.
Pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Bye, Brian.